This story is titled, My Girlfriend Said I Was Too Nice, so I stopped being her safety net. Hi, Internet. Male 28 here. I know posts like this pop up here all the time, and maybe mine isn't that different. But I've been reading stories from other nice guys who got walked over, and for the first time in years, I feel like I understand how it happens and how to stop it. I'm not writing this to bash my ex or to get pity. I'm writing it because if you're the kind of person who always puts others first, who thinks kindness will fix everything, I want you to see what it took for me to learn that being too nice isn't the compliment it sounds like. So here's my story. I used to think being kind was enough, that if I was patient, attentive, and steady, things would work out, because that's what good boyfriends do, right? When I met Lily, I wasn't looking for anything serious. I was working long hours as an IT tech, patching up people's laptops and fighting with cables that never cooperated. She came into the repair shop with a cracked phone screen and this disarming laugh that hit me right in the ribs. She called me the guy who saved her photos because she thought she'd lost all her vacation pictures. I joked that I charged extra for heroism. She grinned and said she'd buy me coffee instead. That's how it started. 2 cappuccinos, 1 broken phone, and a promise that felt like the beginning of something. Lily was the kind of person who filled every room she entered. Loud, quick-witted, a little reckless. She had a group of friends that orbited around her like satellites, and she seemed to thrive on the attention. I was quieter, more of a background character, the guy who noticed when people were uncomfortable, who picked up glasses after a party and washed them before bed. She said that was what she liked about me. You're like grounding, she told me one night as we lay on her couch, her head on my chest, her cat curled at our feet. Everyone I've dated before was chaos. You're safe. At the time, that sounded like a compliment. We moved in together after a year. It made sense financially, and we were spending nearly every night together anyway. The first few months were easy, domestic, almost. She teased me for folding laundry too neatly. I teased her for never finishing a single cup of coffee. Then small things started to shift. She'd go out with her friends on Fridays, text me at midnight. Love you, don't wait up. Then roll in at 3 a.m., smelling like gin and laughter. I'd wake up, help her into bed, bring her water, make eggs the next morning. One Sunday, after she slept off a hangover, she sat across from me at the kitchen table and said, Sometimes I think you're too nice. I looked up from my coffee. Too nice? Yeah. She shrugged, as if it were a neutral observation. Like you don't get mad. You never push back. It's like nothing really ruffles you. I just don't like fighting, I said. What's the point? She smiled, but it was that faint, pitying smile, like she was explaining something to a child. That's what I mean. You don't have to be a doormat to be nice, you know. I didn't know what to say to that, so I laughed it off. But the comment burrowed somewhere deep, like a splinter I couldn't reach. Over the next few weeks, the phrase came back more and more. When I didn't react to her flirting with the bartender. When I agreed to change my weekend plans so she could meet friends. When I shrugged off her teasing me in front of people. You're just too nice, she'd say with a laugh, like it was both a compliment and an insult. One night I asked, what does that even mean? She looked at me for a moment, expression unreadable. It means you're safe, but not exciting. That stung more than I wanted to admit. I started to wonder if she wanted me to be different, sharper, louder, less accommodating. Someone who could challenge her in a way I didn't know how to. I told myself it was just a phase, that she'd realize stability wasn't boring, it was love. But I started noticing things I'd ignored before. How her phone always seemed to be face down. How she smiled at messages that weren't from me. How she'd say, I'm just out with the girls. But there'd be a pause before she answered. I didn't want to become paranoid, so I didn't confront her. That was my mistake. It happened on a Wednesday. I remember because I'd worked late and came home to find her sitting on the couch with some guy I didn't recognize. He was tall, tattooed, the kind of person who radiates confidence. This is Nate, she said. He's in my photography class. He gave me one of those half nods that was more of a performance than a greeting. I smiled politely, shook his hand, tried to hide the weird static of discomfort crawling up my spine. They were flipping through her portfolio, laughing about some inside joke I wasn't part of. She didn't introduce me as her boyfriend. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while she scrolled through her phone beside me. Every few seconds, her screen lit up her face and she smiled faintly. I didn't ask who it was. I just turned away because I was too nice. A week later, she dropped it like an afterthought. "We should take some space," she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "Space?" I repeated. "Yeah, you've been distant lately. I don't know if we're still exciting." There it was again. Exciting. Like love was supposed to be a roller coaster, not a foundation. "Are you seeing someone else?" I asked. She hesitated. That was all the answer I needed. "I'm not seeing him," she said carefully. "We're just connecting." Emotionally, I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. "Right." Emotionally, she frowned. "See? That's what I mean. You always act so calm, like nothing touches you. I don't even know what you're feeling half the time." What I was feeling was devastation, but I couldn't show it. Because the moment I did, she'd say I was being dramatic. "Take whatever space you need," I said quietly. And she did. For the first time in years, the apartment felt like a museum, full of someone else's memories. Her shampoo, her coat, her handwriting on sticky notes that said, "Buy oat milk." I kept expecting her to come back, to realize I was still there. Still the same person who made her coffee every morning, who picked her up when she drank too much, who listened to her talk about her dreams. But she didn't. Her Instagram filled with photos of her and Nate. Candid shots, golden hour lighting, the kind of filtered happiness that looks effortless. I didn't unfollow her. I just stopped checking. Then I caught myself checking again and again. My friends told me to move on. "She's playing games," one said. "You were too good for her anyway." But that didn't help, because being too good still left me alone. A few weeks later, I ran into her downtown. She was with Nate. They looked happy, or maybe just loud enough to convince everyone they were. She saw me, smiled, and called out, "Hey, how have you been?" "Fine," I said. "You?" "Good. Busy." "You know Nate put his arm around her waist." I nodded, forced a polite smile, and said I had somewhere to be. That night, I finally let myself get angry. Not at her, at me. Because she was right about one thing. I never pushed back. I'd spent the entire relationship smoothing her edges, shrinking myself to keep things peaceful. I'd mistaken patience for love and silence for strength. I wasn't too nice. I was scared. Scared of losing her. Scared of being the bad guy. Scared of conflict. And she'd use that. So I stopped. I stopped checking her social media. Stopped waiting for closure that would never come. Stopped apologizing for things I didn't do wrong. I started going to the gym again. Not to get revenge fit, just to feel something other than emptiness. I reconnected with friends I'd ghosted during the relationship. I started saying no to people when I didn't want to do something. And slowly, I started to like myself again. I realized I didn't want to be safe, I wanted to be real. To show anger when I was hurt, joy when I was happy, desire when I felt it. To be a full person, not a shadow. That's when things began to change. The first few months after Lily and I broke up were like learning to walk again. Awkward, unsteady, but oddly liberating. I moved into a smaller apartment across town, the kind that came with thin walls and creaky floors. But it was mine. For the first time, every object in my home was something I chose. No pastel throw pillows, no scented candles that made me sneeze. Just me, my coffee maker, and the hum of quiet independence. It's strange how silence can be terrifying at first, then comforting. I started journaling. Nothing fancy, just notes about my day, how I felt, what I noticed. I realized I'd spent so much time reacting to Lily that I didn't even know what I actually liked anymore. I joined a weekend hiking group, signed up for a cooking class because I was tired of eating takeout, even started volunteering at a local shelter fixing computers. The more I filled my days with things that were mine, the less space Lily occupied in my head. Then, one night, after a long shift, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's me. Can we talk? My first instinct was to ignore it. But curiosity, that old familiar ache, got the better of me. What's up? I replied. A few minutes later, she called. Her voice was hesitant, softer than I remembered. I didn't think you'd answer, she said. I almost didn't. There was a pause, then, can we grab coffee sometime? Just to catch up. Part of me wanted to say no, but another part, the part that still wanted closure, maybe validation, agreed. We met the next afternoon at the same cafe where we'd had our first date. She looked different. Blonder hair, heavier makeup, eyes that flicked around like she was scanning for approval. She smiled when she saw me. You look good, she said. So do you, I lied. We ordered drinks, talked about work, mutual friends, surface-level things. Then she sighed, stirring her latte like it had answers in the foam. I miss you sometimes, she said finally. I didn't respond. Nate and I broke up, she added quickly, as if that explained everything. It just wasn't right. I waited for her to say what she really meant. She didn't. So I asked, what do you want from me, Lily? She blinked, caught off guard. I don't know. I just thought maybe we could reconnect? Reconnecting. The word sounded clinical, like rebooting a router. I leaned back. You said once that I was too nice, that I wasn't exciting enough. Has that changed? Her lips pressed into a line. I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, you did, I said gently, and maybe you were right. But I've spent a lot of time figuring out who I am without trying to fix someone else. She looked at me, really looked, like she was meeting a stranger. I miss how safe you made me feel, she said softly. That's the thing, I replied. You don't get to miss the safety you broke. Her eyes watered. You've changed. Yeah, I said. That was kind of the point. We finished our coffee in silence. When we said goodbye, she hugged me tightly, lingered, whispered, I wish things were different. I didn't answer, because for the first time, I didn't wish that at all. A few days later, she started texting more often. Little things at first, memes, songs, remember when moments. I replied politely but briefly. Then came the longer messages, the late-night ones. Greater than, I can't stop thinking about you. Greater than, I miss the way you listened. Greater than, I didn't realize what I had. Old me would have been flattered. New me saw the pattern. She didn't want me back. She wanted the comfort I represented, the emotional safety net. So I stopped replying. A week later, she showed up at my building. I was coming back from a jog when I saw her sitting on the front steps, wrapped in a coat, eyes red. Can we talk? She asked. I don't think there's anything left to say. Please. I sighed, nodded, unlocked the door, and let her in. She sat on my couch, scanning the room like she was measuring how much of me had changed. There were plants on the windowsill now, art prints I'd chosen, shelves filled with books I actually liked. This place feels different, she said. It feels like me, I said simply. She looked down at her hands. I messed up. I didn't disagree. I thought I wanted someone exciting, she continued, someone who made my heart race. But all Nate did was make me anxious. He'd disappear for days, make jokes at my expense, flirt with other people right in front of me, and I kept thinking about you. How you'd actually care. How you'd ask if I was okay. I took a breath. And what do you want now? She hesitated. A second chance? For a long time, I just looked at her. There was a version of me, the old version, who would have said yes instantly just to feel needed again. But I'd learned something in the quiet months alone. Peace isn't the absence of pain. It's the absence of chaos. I don't think that would be fair to either of us, I said. Her lip trembled. So that's it? Yeah, I said softly. That's it. She stood up, nodded, wiped her eyes. You really aren't the same guy I left. I hope not, I said. She left without looking back. After she left, I expected to feel sad, But what I felt was light, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally exhaled. I realized how much of myself I'd given away in that relationship. Not in grand gestures, but in small compromises. The kind that don't seem like sacrifices until you add them up. Every time I swallowed my opinion, every time I said, it's fine when it wasn't, every time I accepted less than honesty, I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. That night, I wrote something in my journal. Kindness isn't weakness, but it becomes one when you use it to protect someone who keeps cutting you. It wasn't poetic, but it was true. A few weeks later, I was volunteering at the shelter when one of the coordinators introduced me to a new volunteer, Emily. She was quiet but funny in this dry, unpretentious way. We worked side by side fixing a stack of ancient computers, and at one point, when one sparked and died, she laughed and said, "Guess this one's beyond emotional repair." Something about the way she said it, light, ironic, unbothered, made me laugh harder than I had in months. We started talking about music, movies, life. She told me she'd gone through her own mess of a breakup last year. There was no forced chemistry, no games, just two people being honest. We started getting coffee after shifts, then dinner. Then one night, she texted, "You make calm feel like something to look forward to." That line stayed with me, because that's what I'd wanted all along. Not excitement that burns out, but warmth that lasts. A month later, I saw Lily again. By accident. I was walking downtown with Emily when I heard someone call my name. Lily stood across the street, holding a shopping bag, looking smaller than I remembered. "Hey," she said, crossing over. "How have you been?" "Good," I said, smiling politely. "You?" She nodded, eyes flicking to Emily. "Is this—" "Yeah," I said. "This is Emily." They shook hands. The moment hung in the air, awkward but civil. Lily smiled tightly. "I'm happy for you," she said, though her voice cracked on happy. "Thanks," I said. "I hope you're doing okay." "I'm trying," she admitted. Then she added, "You really did stop being too nice." I smiled faintly. "I didn't stop being nice. I just stopped being your cushion." She blinked, once, twice, and then nodded slowly. "You look happy." "I am." And I meant it. She walked away, and for the first time since we'd met, I didn't feel the urge to turn back. People like to say that heartbreak changes you, and it does. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes it changes you back into yourself. I used to think love meant always forgiving, always yielding. I thought being nice was the highest form of care. But real kindness isn't about letting people walk over you. It's about treating yourself with the same respect you give everyone else. When Lily told me I was too nice, she meant I didn't challenge her chaos. What she didn't understand was that peace doesn't need to shout. I'm still nice. I still hold doors open, text friends to check in, remember birthdays. But I also say no. I set boundaries. I walk away when something feels wrong. And somehow, people respect me more for it. Emily and I have been together for nearly a year now. It's not fireworks and chaos. It's small things. Cooking dinner together, reading on the couch, walking in the rain without talking. She never makes me feel like I have to prove my worth by being loud or dramatic. She just likes me. The quiet parts, the calm ones. Every now and then, I think about that phrase. Too nice. And I realized the problem was never that I was too nice. It was that I was too scared to believe that kindness could coexist with strength. Now I know better. If you're reading this and you think being nice means never standing up for yourself, don't. You can be kind and still have a backbone.